Personal story segment tonight. On June 7th, Chicago rapper Lupe Fiasco, who was promoting an album, called President Obama a terrorist. Now, we're used to irresponsible statements from rappers, but that's really over the top. So I invited Mr. Fiasco on The Factor to discuss it.
Time for a flashback.
What do you mean President Obama is a terrorist?
My fight against terrorism, to me, the biggest terrorist is Obama and the United States of America. So for me, it's like I'm trying to fight the terrorism that's actually causing the other forms of terrorism. To put it into context, I was asked about a song that I did called Words I Never Said, which addresses terrorism.
When Chicago's own Lupe Fiasco duked it out with Bill O'Reilly on Fox News.
So the statement that I made, which was, I believe that the biggest terrorist, Obama, and the United States of America, and its foreign policy. That was what the whole, context of everything was. And it was really just an expression of me trying to, I guess, understand critically the society.
President Obama is not a terrorist. He's trying to do what he believes is the right thing to do. The United States is not a bad nation. It's a noble nation. We're trying to defend ourselves against people who killed us on 9/11.
O'Reilly, being the man he is and company that employs him, frames us as the good guys, when in reality, sometimes that's just not the case.
And then you go out there and you talk to a lot of younger people, and this is what gets me. That your constituency are not exactly political science PhDs, okay? They're impressionable kids.
I don't think that matters. I don't think you need to have a political PhD
to
understand politics. To understand politics, I don't think you necessarily need that.
Lupe quickly dispels O'Reilly's argument that his fans are unqualified to talk and know politics, an insane and flawed logic.
And I don't think that politics are as complex as people like to make them seem or out to be. Richard Nixon said that, they reduced fear by reducing the causes of fear. And in that same interview...
Let's go back to that interview, shall we?
For me, it's like I'm trying to fight the terrorism that's actually causing the other forms of terrorism. The root causes of the terrorism is the stuff that the U.S. government allows to happen, and the foreign policies that we have in place in different countries that inspire people to become terrorists, and it's easy for us because it's really just some oil, which we can really get on our own.
This is what landed him in hot water, but let's just examine this, or maybe Jake should.
So, do I think Obama's the biggest terrorist? Of course not, right? Do I understand the point he's trying to make? Yes, okay? Now, that will get you disqualified in other media, right? I'm sure I'm taking a risk by saying I understand what he's saying. Like, your reaction is supposed to be, how dare he? That's it. He's a terrible person. We move on. No, I get his logic. I disagree with the ultimate conclusion, but he's saying, look, we're causing certain events throughout the world, and we need to examine our own actions. I think it's an interesting and thoughtful point, whether you agree or disagree.
This is the fundamental point. In Iran, the CIA planned a covert operation in 1953 to overthrow the prime minister who had just nationalized Iranian oil. The Harvard Business Review has a great podcast discussing the overthrow of the Guatemalan president in 1954 in a U.S.-backed coup in support of the United Fruit Co., now Chiquita Brands International. Arbenz won in 51 and vowed to redistribute all idle lands to the people, knowing ownership and control of it was fundamental to their economy. The country's soil was immensely fertile, but United Fruit Co. were the big fish. Arbenz shocked UFCO when he actually confiscated a huge chunk of the company's land and offered $1.2 million as compensation. Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and CIA Director Alan Dulles convinced President Eisenhower that Arbenz had to go. Here's the thing. The Dulles brothers were former partners of United Fruit's main law firm in Washington. On their advice, Eisenhower authorized the CIA to organize Operation Success, a plan for the armed overthrow of Arbenz. The agency handpicked Colonel Carlos Castillo Armas to lead the coup. They financed and trained Castillo's rebels in Nicaragua, and it backed up the invasion with CIA-piloted planes. During and after the coup, more than 9,000 Guatemalan supporters of Arbenz were arrested. Washington recognized Castillo as Guatemala's leader. He quickly outlawed more than 500 trade unions and returned more than 1.5 million acres to United Fruit and the country's other big landowners. Guatemala's brief experiment with democracy was over. For the next 4 decades, its people suffered from government terror without equal in the modern history of Latin America. As one American observer described it, in Guatemala City, unlicensed vans full of heavily armed men pull to a stop and in broad daylight kidnap another death squad victim. Mutilated bodies are dropped from helicopters on crowded stadiums to keep the population terrified. Those who dare ask about disappeared loved ones have their tongues cut out. Chile, 1973, the U.S., led by Nixon, demanded the country's socialist candidate be ousted. He told the CIA to make the Chilean economy scream, and in 1970, the agency worked with 3 Chilean groups, each of which was plotting a coup. General Augusto Pinochet led a military coup in 73. The CIA's official account noted the agency was aware of coup plotting by the military, had ongoing intelligence collection relationships with some plotters, and because they did not discourage the takeover and had sought to instigate a coup in 1970, probably appeared to condone it. The CIA also conducted a propaganda campaign in support of Pinochet, despite knowledge of severe human rights abuses, including the murder of political dissidents.
If you hate capitalism that much, then why don't you move to Venezuela?
Oh, you messed up, Jordan. I've been waiting for you to slip up and say something dumb on this app. Western capitalists like you sucked the oil out of Venezuela for years until that's what their economy was dependent on. And when the Socialist Party won election, they kicked these Western multinationals out and reinvested a lot of that oil revenue in social programs. This decreased poverty by 25%, illiteracy by 49%, homelessness. So the U.S. put 160 sanctions on them and surrounded the country with our military so we can steal anything they try and trade. So you see, Jordan, Venezuela didn't fail. They're being strangled to enrich losers like you.
Can't leave out Venezuela either. In Venezuela itself, the U.S. gave its tacit approval of a coup attempt against Hugo Chavez in 2002. Declassified CIA intelligence briefings show that the Bush administration had prior knowledge of the opposition's plans and did not share their intel with Chavez. He was deposed for less than 48 hours until overwhelming popular support and loyalists in the military helped return him to power. These are just a few examples. There are plenty more. As Warriors head coach Steve Kerr tweeted, "One thing I've learned in my lifetime is to not believe our government when it comes to matters of war."
I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction.
Remember this BS? The U.S. themselves concluded there were no weapons of mass destruction. They lied. Bush and Cheney knew this and committed atrocities anyway.
We come to Iraq with respect for its citizens, for their great civilization.
Ah, yes, of course. Much love to the Iraqis, though as Vox reported, the death toll of civilians killed are nearing 300,000. The exact total has never been concluded. In 1964, the USS Maddox, a U.S. vessel, was parked in the Gulf of Tonkin off the coast of North Vietnam to deliberately provoke the North Vietnamese to respond with force, which they did. The Maddox made it out safe, but President Lyndon B. Johnson claimed it came under fire. Our destroyers were just shooting at phantom targets, nothing there but black water and American firepower, said pilot James Stockdale. Up for election and approval rating plummeting, Johnson urged Congress to pass a resolution, which they did, allowing him to take all necessary measures to protect U.S. forces in Vietnam. The U.S. would spend more than $120 billion on the conflict in Vietnam from 65 to 73, leading to widespread inflation, exacerbated by a worldwide oil crisis in 73 and skyrocketing fuel prices. Of course, stateside, the forgotten are the casualties from whom the military-industrial complex benefited. Vietnam military and civilian deaths range from 1.5 million to 3.8 million. In Yemen, more than 22 million people out of a total population of 28 million are in need of humanitarian aid and protection. 18 million people lack reliable access to food. 8.4 million people do not know how they will obtain their next meal, fueled by the Obama and Trump administration's arms deals with Saudi Arabia. Of course, how can we leave out Ronald Reagan, who, per commondreams.org, convinced millions of Americans that the threats they faced were African American welfare queen, Central American leftists, a rapidly expanding evil empire based in Moscow, and the do-good federal government. He, along with...
And last night, I tell you, to watch that thing on television, as I did,
Yeah.
to see those monkeys from those African countries, damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
Well, and then the tail wags the dog there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The tail wags the dog.
Richard Nixon despised their own American citizens. Even Ava DuVernay retweeted this, which shows just how much of a gap there remains to be and how the U.S. screwed its minority citizens. O'Reilly, to the surprise of no one, defended Donald Trump after January 6th and said he did not incite violence. But back to Lupe.
If you're going to fight terrorism, right, true terrorism, weaponized fear. In defense of ourselves, we're actively fighting something else. But if you're going to fight terrorism, to me, you fight the root causes of terrorism.
The root causes of terrorism are many. Okay, they are varied. It depends region to region and all of that. The United States cannot cure ills in the world. What the President of the United States' responsibility is to protect you and me. That's his responsibility. And he's doing it through aggressive action. So, Navy SEALs killed bin Laden. You okay with that?
With him hunting down a criminal, a person who's responsible for the deaths, right, of innocent people?
Yes.
I have nothing wrong with that.
Okay. So when bin Laden got
nothing.
killed, you didn't have any problem with that. That was okay, legitimate action.
You know what I had a problem with? The war in Afghanistan.
Okay, you have a problem with the war in Afghanistan.
Let me finish. The point of the war of Afghanistan was supposedly to go in and find bin Laden. Right.
Well,
but
no,
in the interim
no, that's
of the,
not right.
well, 9/11.
Mr. Jaco,
right? Osama bin Laden. Bin Laden.
What you just said is fallacious. That means it's wrong.
It's not fallacious at all,
yes,
sir.
It is.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. The point and the purpose of why do we why are we in Afghanistan if it wasn't to hunt down Al Qaeda and the terrorist network, sir? Because it definitely wasn't for any other reason.
You see what O'Reilly's doing, right? When he does not get the answer he wants, he attempts to cut off Fiasco and discredit him with his tone. It doesn't work. And as we've learned, the detractors of the war in Afghanistan are vindicated. Complex News, in a piece titled 25 Things We Love That Fox News Has Hated On, quoted Fiasco when he said to O'Reilly, "If you're going to fight terrorism, you fight the root causes." Fiasco implied that the root causes are American imperialism and the military-industrial complex. Lupe then went on to condemn the war in Afghanistan. O'Reilly condescendingly responded, "We went to Afghanistan to deprive Al Qaeda of its sanctuary." Of course, O'Reilly didn't have it in him to treat a hip-hop artist with respect. O'Reilly was sure to ask Fiasco if he knows what fallacious means and mocked his sunglasses, to which Lupe responded, "Actually, they're prescription." Lupe noted in a now deleted tweet that O'Reilly and Fox News edited out some of his sharpest arguments. Not a surprise considering they have that power.
You are oversimplifying and bringing a message to people, younger people, as I pointed out, who admire you, that is a message that is not true.
So to say that the president of the United States of America, all of them, not just Obama, because I'm not trying to undermine him, and him being a terrorist is just one label. He's many things. Like you said, he's a protector, he's a father, he's a midst of other things. Me just recognizing that one particular attribute of him is not me trying to undermine him or undermine my constituency or spread lies or spread rumors for the sake of anybody. I don't really care about the GOPs or the Democratic Party. My point is the people and giving the people the truth.
You're misleading
so with that said,
our president,
I'm not misleading the people, sir. The president of the United States of America is the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. So it's not a lie, as you say.
Basically, the entire U.S. government and the military attached to it is a fiasco.
If you do want to change the name of the show to the Fiasco Factor,
right,
we'll definitely license the name out to you. I'll even do it for free.
As Vibe magazine senior editor Clover Hope told MTV News at the time, "I thought Lupe actually did a good job of holding his own and clarifying that point, that he just wasn't talking about Obama, just America as an institution."